I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. Happy President's Day.
George Carlin says anybody can be president of America. That's part of the problem. I just love that line.
That is part of the problem. John Caldera had a funny article the other day that's like, out of the 2 million people who ever live in Colorado, the options we have for governor, you sit there sometimes you're just like, really?
Oh,
Phil
yeah.
Weiser, Michael Bennett, those guys.
Yeah, that's what, the Democrats with all of their support, with all of the people in the legislature, because again, they've been able to run more people, get more people elected. So in theory, they have a much deeper bench, and we get these guys.
Pale, male, and stale.
It's so disappointing.
Right. We've got a lot to cover this hour, including the government shutdown kicked in over the weekend. What does that mean for you, for travel, for all this? And I'll ask you all once again, why are we entrusting these people with our healthcare decisions? We'll get to news here in a second, but happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there.
Yes.
And those who celebrate. I was joking with my wife, but I got her a card that was this funny little Donald Trump, make love great again.
Oh,
card.
God, that's funny.
You stole my heart like the 2020 election.
Yeah.
It was hilarious and funny. And then of course,
yeah,
we posted it online, and the comments I got were, Jeff, this is just a made up holiday to sell greeting cards. You shouldn't be a Biden with this type of. I was like,
yeah.
of course.
There's
always those folks.
I did share one Valentine online, but this is for my old 80s fans out there. It was a dead Kennedy's Valentine. So, yeah. So it was kind of fun. And my wife got it immediately. She's like, and it doesn't even mention DK. And she's like, she got it immediately. And I'm like, that's why I love you. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Crowley, you were the winner or your wife was the winner.
He was the prize.
Of an award.
I guess that's a matter of opinion.
You were the prize?
Yeah. He was the prize. There's a radio contest, and that guy sitting right here in the studio with us was the prize.
I was the prize in 2001, which makes this made-up holiday that's only for greeting cards made it very significant for us. It was our 25th year of having met one another on Valentine's Day. So you can take your phony holiday and stick it.
That's why we love Mark. You're the best.
So it's the real deal.
What was the story? You get contacted by the radio station?
No,
or what?
sort of. They had a whole week. They were going to do a big party on Friday, which was Valentine's Day, 2001. And so every day during the week, they would have a male or female bachelor or bachelorette of the day, and you would sit and take calls, and you would interview these callers and pick one, and then you would get to go to the big radio station date party on Friday night. So I was single at the time, working for DPD, and I called in as a interviewee on Tuesday morning to try to win a date with the girl that was in that day. Okay. And I didn't win. And although I was convinced, I knew I was going to win, but whatever. Anyway, so I just went on about my day. Well, I'm sitting at Gunther Tootie's at Leetsdale and Colorado Boulevard with a buddy of mine having breakfast. About 2 hours later, my phone rings, and it's Dom Testa from Mix 100. And he said, Mark, I got to tell you that you are like the most popular bachelor of the day. We're getting faxes, phone numbers, emails of people wanting to meet you. And so we have a guy coming in Thursday, and to be honest with you, we don't like him. So we want you to be the guy on Thursday. Will you do it? I'm like, yeah. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun. So Thursday morning, I get up, and I'm in the studio at 6 o'clock, and for the next 2 hours, we took calls. And I'm, taking all these mad notes, and my note-taking is the worst, so no one could tell who I was thinking about. Anyway, so my wife calls, and I knew that she was the one. She's a teacher, working on her PhD. She had a great sense of humor, very intelligent sounding, well-spoken. I said, that's the one. So I picked her.
In that conversation, what was the thing that you remember that you were like, wait, she's different than everybody else? There's had to be something in that conversation when he's talking to you that you were like, wait, this woman has separated herself above and beyond everybody else. What was it?
Well, I think it was the fact that she was working full-time as a teacher and had the wherewithal and the chutzpah to go after a PhD.
That's cool.
So I knew she was smart, number one, but she had perseverance and willing to take it on at that age. We were in our mid-40s at that time. So anyway, I pick her, and Thursday night we went out to dinner, and here we are 25 years later.
When you did pick her, what was the response? Was she excited?
Yeah, she was.
And then,
There's another piece of it on the other side. She had heard me call on Tuesday.
Yeah, I was going to ask why she called.
Yeah, so after I finished, then she had to go to work. So she never knew the outcome. So she was convinced that that girl had picked me, and that's all she wrote. And then Thursday is that day I was there. That's her birthday. Her alarm went off 20 minutes early that day for an unknown reason. And I was already talking at that time when the alarm went off, and she goes, "That's him. That's him." And so, she doesn't even have her glasses on yet and all that kind of, and she dialed in. So she had already had her eyeball on me on Tuesday morning, and then it all came to pass on Thursday.
I think at one point, Mark Crowley, you were the most eligible bachelor in the entire city of Denver.
I'm telling you, I got, oh my gosh, I wish I would have kept some of them. We got, the radio station got at least a dozen faxes in 2001 of girls on motorcycles, at the beach, all for me. It was absolutely the craziest thing I've ever done.
So you guys go out on the first date, and was it like immediate?
Yeah, that's what I want to know is, see here, you guys, where did you guys go? And what I want to know is, when she walks through the door, tell me what you saw and what you were thinking.
So here comes the smart part. I appreciate the intelligence more than just about anything, and the sense of humor. So, I picked her up for dinner. We went to P.F. Chang downtown, and Grand Hyatt was where the party was. And so I go to her house. I told her, I said, if you're not comfortable, I can meet you at a parking lot at a gas station or somewhere. She goes, "No, come on." She says, "You're a policeman. You can figure out where I live." I'm like, good point. So
that's awesome.
And her last name is Lopez. Okay, what's the first thing that comes in your picture-wise? Dark hair, brown eyes, right. Hispanic looking. So I knock on ring the doorbell. She comes to the door, blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm like, what? And she goes, you got to come in. You got to come in. I got to show you this. I'm like, okay. So she was all into space at the time with her kids. And they were literally in the midst of launching a mirror ball satellite out of the space shuttle at the moment that I showed up for her to pick in. It was the old dialing in kind of internet, and it was pretty much, I was dead meat at that time.
You know what I think is a common trait among all three of us? Because I met your wife, both your wives, intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
I think all three of us were drawn to intelligence. And for me, 100%. Right?
Yeah,
definitely
100%.
Attractive, but what becomes the marriageable quality is faith and intelligence.
Yeah, that was that tipped the scale.
Yeah.
Oh,
no question about it. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, now big thing. So we're talking about Valentine's Day coming back, this past weekend, and you had a wonderful Valentine's Day with your wife, celebrating the day in which you guys first met. Now, this is the big one, Mark. Okay, now you guys are, later in life, you're connecting. How did you propose? How did you pop the question to this wonderful woman that won you on a radio dating game?
Well, it goes right along that whole same line.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
Melting Pot fits into it as well. But I didn't even, I know the people at Melting Pot now. I didn't know them back then. So I rented a carriage, and we took a ride down the 16th Street Mall. It was it was actually the Saturday before Easter, so it was Saturday night before Easter. I mean, it was so cold. I mean, they had blankets for you. Just a beautiful carriage ride. And then we decided we were going to go to dinner, but it was getting kind of late, so I said, well, let's just go to dessert. But I had already been to the Melting Pot, and and if you can, they'll arrange the table for you and all that kind of thing. So I had put the engagement ring inside of a rose There was a single rose on the table.
Oh, smart.
And then that's where it all happened. Over dessert at the Melting Pot in Littleton.
That's nice. Good
25
job.
years.
25 years.
There you go. All
That's
right.
fantastic.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you very much.
Yes,
All
congratulations.
right. Coming up, we're going to talk what you need to know about the government shutdown, the Homeland Security shutdown, how it might affect you. Let's get to news and weather, Bill.
Your 710 KNUS forecast is early Monday, partly cloudy skies, temperatures around 35 by daybreak. For the rest of your Monday, partly sunny, highs around 65, partly cloudy tonight, lows down to 40. Cooler with a chance for showers on Tuesday, highs near 60. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
KNUS here in Denver, Colorado.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you will get both sides. The Department of Homeland Security, the New York Times reporting, funding has lapsed, and lawmakers are deadlocked over a proposal to restore it, with Democrats seeking restrictions on federal agents carrying out President Trump's immigration crackdown. Even though the department is shut down, a vast majority of its operations are still being carried out, with most of its personnel remaining on the job without pay, just as they did during last fall's shutdown. But the longer the standoff lasts, the more travelers and others could feel its effects. So here's what we know about the shutdown. The department is vast. The Department of Homeland Security is vast and oversees many agencies, including TSA, the Coast Guard, and FEMA. Its agencies involved in immigration enforcement, customs and border protection, and ICE have been under heavy scrutiny amid the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, particularly following the fatal shooting of 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis last month. Democrats, who have few levers to pull with Republicans controlling the House, Senate, and White House, have sought to force changes at the department by withholding their votes for funding until Republicans agree to set a policy change, agree to a set of policy changes. The 100-member Senate requires 60 votes to overcome a filibuster, so a funding bill cannot pass without some Democratic support. Chuck Schumer has labeled ICE a rogue agency on Sunday and said he called on Republicans to agree to the limits the Democrats have called for. Why don't we rein them in? That's what the American people are asking Republicans, he told CNN's State of the Union, and that's why they're going to have to go along with us. So what are the Democrats seeking? Democrats have pushed for a range of new restrictions on immigration agents, including requiring them to obtain warrants from judges to make arrests in homes, mandating that they show visible identification, prohibiting face coverings while they are engaged in immigration enforcement operations. Democrats have also pushed for stricter use of force policy and new training standards, as well as an end to roving patrols. Republicans have objected to many of the demands, which they consider overly burdensome, and maintain that any new guardrails on federal agents should also come with restrictions on so-called sanctuary cities or jurisdictions with policies that limit cooperation with immigration agents. Bottom line, all right, you want to make these changes? You want to prohibit ICE from covering their faces. You want visible identification. You want stricter use of force policies and new training standards. Well, then you got to get rid of the sanctuary city and state policies that prevent us from coordinating. Again, I go back to this word over and over again because it's the key word in all of this. Coordinate. You want the worst of the worst out. You're already arresting them. Just coordinate with ICE. Don't allow them out on a PR bond out the front door and make ICE chase them around the parking lot. Tom Homan, the White House border czar, the New York Times continues, who took over on-the-ground operations in Minneapolis before announcing last week that the surge of agents to the state was ending, defended the use of masks on Sunday. He even said, I don't like the masks either. But because threats against ICE officers are up over 1,500% and actual assaults and threats are up over 8,000%, these men and women have to protect themselves. Do you agree with that, Bill?
Yeah, no. I'll make this a little complicated. I understand the pushback on it, but the idea of not having, IDs and not being able to see faces is a real authoritarian move. Because if you want to talk about the secret police force, it's kind of how they function. So that's part of, when I see the tactics of ICE, there's part of me that wonders, where are all you people with the Gadsden flag? Where are all you, the don't tread on me people? Where are all y'all at this time that you're okay with any sort of a government law enforcement agency operating without identification and you can't see who they are? I'm surprised that we have decided for a portion of the country that was so bent on standing up against the tyranny, this is just fine. I think that's weird. I think that the Democrats have a point about judicial warrants especially, and Fourth Amendment. That seems vitally important to, the Constitution. No, part of the way that our country was set up is that law enforcement doesn't get to come into your house without a judicial warrant. They have to go through the checks and balances and justify to somebody else that this is okay, not just go through somebody that is your supervisor, which would be an administrative warrant that says it's okay. Somebody that already has signed off on the operation in the first place.
10 million warrants need to be acquired.
Do we think that law enforcement should be allowed to enter your house without a warrant? Because if it's okay with immigration, why is it not okay then with anything else? That's the issue. Is if the issue is just immigration, we can remove that word and ask if it's okay with anything else.
Well, Bill, we've decided as a country, and I think rightfully so, that the issue of illegal immigration doesn't require the same type of due process as an American citizen being arrested, in part because of the burden on the system. Could you imagine 10 million people now needing their own attorneys provided by taxpayers in order to argue that they can remain here in the country illegally?
That's a different thing than judicial warrants, though.
All of this stuff is about the burden on the system. We allowed, just in the last 4 years, 10 million. You have likely 20 million illegal immigrants in this country, and putting them through all the same systems, all the due process, public attorney, warrant systems that American citizens go through. The American judicial system just can't bear that burden. In fact, in Colorado, you have problems with just poor people unable to get an attorney, let alone an illegal immigrant. We just don't have enough.
Judicial warrants are different than providing public attorneys in those cases. They'd be different. But if the argument is it's just too much of a burden, Well, it's a lot of burden to run people through the criminal justice system and a whole lot of a burden to run people through the civil justice system. If it is about the expediency of the process and making sure that it doesn't take too long, let's just eliminate the courts. Let's just have whoever's in charge declare what the rule is and then put everybody in jail they want to. That would be expedience. That would slow down the burden. But if the argument's burden, I'm sorry, because something's difficult doesn't mean you don't have to do it. Especially when we're talking about.
But Bill, we do that right now.
Especially when talking about rights that are outlined inside of the Constitution. That is the Fourth Amendment.
So are you going to pay for illegal immigrants to have attorneys?
You're missing my point. Judicial warrants do not involve anybody that's an illegal alien having an attorney.
You went on this big issue about burdens. Oh, just because it's so burdensome, we're not going to do it anymore?
No, I'm going to repeat this point. Getting a judicial warrant does not involve the illegal immigrant getting an attorney. Getting a judicial warrant means that ICE needs to go to a judge and show probable cause that this person is there and needs to be removed and they need to enter the house. That's all it is. It involves zero public defenders or an illegal immigrant getting an attorney.
It requires a judge. It requires...
Oh, no. Checks and balances. How dare we do that?
But see, you're willing to carve out and go...
Carve out?
Yeah, you are. You're willing to carve out and go the warrant is not so burdensome, but the attorney would be. So you're willing to say, okay,
I haven't said that.
Go get. But so you.
They're two different issues.
I'm sorry.
No, see, here's the you have brought in the idea that the illegal immigrants need all these attorneys and everything else. I'm putting that to the side. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about three things: that judicial warrants, the visible IDs, and the masks. Those are the three planks I think are the strongest for the Democrats to push on. I think that's where they will have most of the American support. You can look at use of force, you can look at training and patrols, but those are a little bit more malleable in my mind. I think judicial warrant is, for me, a hill that you absolutely die on because it is a constitutional right. And just because any law enforcement believes that there may be an illegal immigrant or a criminal inside the premises doesn't mean you get to violate everybody else's constitutional rights and just go in wherever you want. It's not how it works. And if we want to change the system, go right ahead. Go through it and change the Constitution. But this is very important.
What I don't understand is why you're okay, like Jay from Louisville pointing out, that public defenders exist because of due process in the Constitution.
What I'm talking about is Jay is talking about when we charge those illegal immigrants and we bring them through the justice system. That is not what I'm talking about. I am talking about ICE not getting judicial warrants to enter a home in order to, which are not cool. That's not the same thing. And that's not okay.
But help me understand why you're willing to go, this is a constitutional right. We have to stand strong for that illegal immigrant to have a judicial warrant against them because of constitutionally protected rights, and then go, but we don't need them to have a public defender.
The question I think I want to lead into is, do constitutional rights apply to everybody? Do they apply to everybody in America? Regardless of whether or not you're a citizen, and that's important because theoretically our rights are derived from God. We do not then get to turn around and tell someone who may or may not be in this country that they don't have that constitutional right.
Right, and so you would go, that illegal immigrant should have a public defender.
You are trying to get me into an argument I am not making, and I refuse.
I don't understand why on one end you're willing to go, this is a constitutionally protected right, and then I go, okay, how about public defenders? And you go, don't try to put me into a box.
How about this? How about you debate the issue we're debating rather than trying to change the subject onto another subject?
Change the subject.
Okay, does ICE need a judicial warrant or not? In your mind, why not?
No.
That's what we're debating. Stop it with the illegal immigrants and getting attorneys. That's the point we're debating.
Same thing. Because the reason why they don't need judicial warrants is because running around to try to get judges to issue 10 million judicial warrants, 10 million. It's crazy. It's the same reasoning why we don't require them to have public defenders.
When do they need a judicial warrant?
Because the burden on the system is too big.
When does ICE need to get a judicial warrant? What is the circumstances?
I don't know the difference between a judicial and a administrative
warrant. The judicial warrant would be needed. The judicial warrant would be needed to enter somebody's home. or place of business.
So what does an administrative warrant do?
Not a heck of a lot. What it does is an administrative warrant allows you to skirt the idea of actually going to a judge and getting an actual warrant. It circumvents the checks and balances that we are supposed to be so dependent upon in this country.
So does not giving them a public defender.
Don't care about that. Stop trying to bring that issue into this.
Let's deal with issue, Bill.
No, it isn't.
It's literally the exact same issue.
I'm sorry. Where in the Fourth Amendment does it outline that?
Does it require you to have a public defender?
Yeah,
defense. So that's not a constitutional right. That's just something nice
I'm
we do.
talking about the Fourth Amendment and judicial warrants.
Yeah.
That's the issue. We can get to the whole other thing about cooperation and later, but the issue for me is they should be ID'd. I'm not okay with them having masks and judicial warrants. They need and they must get judicial warrants. That's it. Full stop.
10 million of them. Judges.
They don't need to. They're not doing
10 million judicial warrants.
You're conflating two numbers.
That's just in the last 4 years. 20 million. You want to get them all out? 20 million judicial warrants.
What you're doing here is
that would take 100 years at least.
What you're doing is you are taking the total number of immigrants and assuming that you have to get a judicial warrant to enter anybody's home or place of business in order to get them, which is not true. So your number is a lie. You would not have to get judicial warrants to arrest 10 million.
Why we don't do it as a country.
You would not have to get 10 million judicial warrants.
It is civilizational suicide to be able to allow 10 million people to come into your country and then require the taxpayers of that country to then fund the process to deport them, including getting a judicial warrant, 10 million of them, and then providing public defenders for all of them. It is civilizational suicide. All right, feel free to join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. To this point, right here, Jay from Louisville. Due process takes time. This is the lunacy of this entire process. People that we know broke the rules. We know broke the law. We are going to go through a long process funded by taxpayers to run out there and go get a judicial warrant to be able to enter their home. Then we are going to fund a defense lawyer to defend them, even though we know that they're here illegally. All paid for by the people that are here legally is absolutely crazy to me. All right. We'll get to phone calls and texts. Let's go to Modern Rugged Leather. From city streets to mountain trails, your gear should go wherever life takes you. That's why at Modern Rugged Leather, every bag is handcrafted from premium, responsibly sourced leather. Designed to look sharp, last long, and tell a story of its own. Each stitch, buckle, and strap reflects timeless craftsmanship and is backed by a lifetime warranty because quality shouldn't quit when the adventure begins. Whether it's the boardroom or the back roads, Modern Rugged Leather helps you carry confidence every step of the way. Modern Rugged Leather, modern style, timeless durability, backed for life. Life takes you places. Make sure your gear keeps up. Shop the full collection and find yours today at modernrugged.com. Again, that's modernrugged.com. Your phone calls and texts. More to come. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides talk. This is The Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS here in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show, where we debate both sides. We're talking the government shutdown right now, what Democrats want. Some of the changes include pushing for a large range of new restrictions, the New York Times reporting, on immigration agents, including requiring them to obtain warrants from judges to make arrests in homes, mandating that they show visible identification, prohibiting face coverings while they're engaged in immigration enforcement operations. Democrats have also pushed for stricter use of force policy, new training standards, as well as an end to roving patrols. The debate during the last segment around warrants for judges to make arrests in homes. So I looked up, right now, ICE operates off of administrative warrants, and this is what the internet says. A judicial warrant is signed by a neutral judge based on probable cause, authorizing entry into a home, whereas an administrative warrant is issued by an ICE official without judicial oversight, authorizing arrests but not entry into a home without consent. An administrative warrant does not legally compel you to open your door. From the ACLU, this is kind of like why they run around and with their little microphones go, "Don't open the doors to ICE, don't open the doors to ICE." So if they can't enter your home already, administrative warrant just allows them to go knock on the door and arrest.
Yeah, except for the ICE directive from Todd Lyons that happened in May of last year that basically said we can ignore Fourth Amendment and that administrative warrants function the same way.
And is that challenged in court?
It is going to be challenged and is right now. But again, that is internally, they just decided we don't need judicial warrants anymore. These administrative warrants function the same way.
I don't see the kicking down doors.
They made the supposition based on, quote, air quotes, new legal rulings or new legal interpretations that they don't have to get judicial warrants in order to do exactly what a judicial warrant allows them to do, which is to go into their house. That's it.
I don't see that happening. Do you see that happening? I mean, like with all these videos, I mean, you're claiming they have the right to do it, but I'm not seeing them actually do that.
So, I mean, again, I don't know. Do I have to bring up a bunch of examples of it happening right now? The issue is that the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have decided that the Fourth Amendment is fungible. That's not okay. That's the core of it.
I disagree that that's happening, though. So you're claiming it's happening, and I'm saying
claiming that's
I don't think it's happening, and because I don't see the videos happening out there.
Here's the idea: it's the directive from ICE. I don't care.
Well, this is the directive from the ACLU, Bill, saying don't open your door. So, but
according to Director Todd Lyons of ICE, they now can break it down. Because that's the idea of it.
I'm not seeing it anywhere here.
So what?
Because evidence matters in a debate, Bill.
Yes, it matters, but the issue is it violating the constitutional right? Yes, you don't necessarily have to wait for something to happen in order to file the lawsuit or to say that it's a danger. That's it.
I'm going to agree with some of these text messages here. Democrats are setting up for the end of America. They completely ignore the law and let everyone in, but then demand that we follow every law to get the invaders out. That's exactly right. Let's go to the phone lines. Ben and Morrison. Good morning, Ben. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Yeah, morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you just fine. What's on your mind?
No, I'm glad you actually brought that up, administrative versus criminal warrants. I was worried I was going to have to explain that to Jeff. There's a big difference. So criminal warrants are something that are generally handed down by an Article III judge, someone, and those issues are problems that involve life, liberty, pursuit of happiness sort of issues, criminal issues. Administrative warrants can be handed down by somebody who's not appointed, just from some agency that come from willy-nilly anybody. So you can put in some lackey and they can administer one of those. They are not applicable for searching and seizing a property or looking, just entering a home. And it is a violation of the Fourth Amendment if they try to do that. And I don't care what Jeff says, but like he doesn't get to throw out the Fourth Amendment just because he feels like it. He feels like it's burdensome or whatever. You know, at a certain point, the Constitution is the Constitution. We have these rights, and you don't get to throw them out just because you think it's cumbersome. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Ben, why don't illegal immigrants get attorneys provided by the taxpayers? Why aren't they afforded public defenders?
They go through, I feel like they should.
Okay. So, Ben, you think that 10 million illegal immigrants should be given public defenders before they're deported?
Yes, I do. I feel like that is in our Constitution. I feel like everybody deserves an attorney.
To that point, Ben, why is it that you are so adamant to make sure that an illegal immigrant gets a public defender, but you don't seem that adamant about the fact that they're here illegally in the first place?
Jeff, real quick question for you. Why do you think it's perfectly fine to invalidate the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution? It seems like you don't really support the Constitution, do you?
I disagree with the idea that if you cross here, you put a foot across our border, that for our government to get you out, we're going to spend the next 6 to 12 months going to talk to judges, going to get you a public defender, and spending a whole bunch of taxpayer dollars to do that. That's insane to me.
So you support authoritarianism, is basically what you're saying.
I don't support illegal immigrants coming here and then getting all of these services provided by the people who work hard in this country, deliver for this country, follow the rules. The fact that you are so permissive to allow people into this country and then so strict in our effort to get them out is insane to me.
Jeff doesn't like the Constitution is what I'm hearing. I'm sorry it's not convenient all the time, but yeah, it's in the Constitution, Jeff. Do you not like the Constitution? Is that what you're saying, Jeff?
No, Ben, not at all. Not at all. I just don't understand why we have to pay for it when they step a foot into this country. Why are you so permissive?
We have to pay for it?
Why are you
That's the Constitution that invalidates the Constitution because it's going to cost some money?
No.
That invalidates the Constitution, Jeffy?
Ben, it's insane. It's insane, and it kills a country to do what you're doing right now, to allow 10 million illegal immigrants into this country and then to force every red-blooded, tax-paying American to pay for a long process to get them out here. You guys don't care about the Constitution. You have voted into people into this country, or you have voted Democrats into office that continue to devalue the Second Amendment, Ben. Are you a proud, strong, do you stand strong for the Second Amendment?
I have 3 guns, and I'm fine with having regulations on it.
So see, I can just throw that right back at you. You don't care about the Constitution. You don't care. Ben, it's civilizational suicide what you're advocating for. We're done with it. We're fighting back. I'm not going to spend my dollars to hire a public defender for somebody who shouldn't be in this country in the first place.
Yeah.
All right.
That's not the Fourth Amendment, though. It's not the Fourth Amendment.
It says you have to. Jeff doesn't like the Constitution. It's hard. It's hard when Jeff is against the Constitution. He thinks he's so conservative, but he doesn't understand it. Do some reading, Jeff. It's not that hard. There are a couple sentences. It's a couple sentences. That's all you have to do. You get provided an attorney if you're accused of a crime. It's not that hard. What do you not understand here? What do you not understand here, Jeffy?
All right. Well, I appreciate the insults, Ben.
Yeah, keep it all above board, Ben.
What I don't understand is you are sitting here, you are nitpicking, demanding, Ben, that we follow every iota of the Constitution for somebody that's in this country illegally. And yet, at the same time, you are completely dismissing the fact that they broke a law to get here in the first place. That's civilizational suicide. Break any law to get in here. We don't care.
Does that invalidate their rights?
We don't care here.
Does that invalidate their rights if you feel they've broken a law? Does it invalidate anybody's right if you feel they've broken a law?
I
or
don't.
Do they still have rights?
I disagree with the entire framing of this.
Okay.
I disagree with the entire framing of this. That we're somehow not following the Constitution if we don't give every 10 million person that got into this country a full 12-person jury trial before we deport them.
Yeah, that's not the argument, though.
No,
You're
that's
making a different
exactly
argument.
the argument.
No, the argument is the Fourth Amendment.
You guys are saying...
Not you guys, me. I am planting my flag on the Fourth Amendment. Stop making this thing about attorneys. I don't care. We can discuss that elsewhere. Fourth Amendment. Get a judicial warrant. If you can create probable cause, go to a judge. That's the checks and balances inside of the system. Not letting law enforcement tell themselves to go arrest whoever they want. It's fairly simple. And everybody that had that Gadsden flag, everybody that was saying don't tread on me, everybody that called here and texted about the tyranny of the government, now we're okay with basically invalidating the Fourth Amendment because it's burdensome. That's the issue to me. The Fourth Amendment. Judicial warrants are needed. That's it. End of story.
And why I don't get it is you're willing to go, the warrants, really, really important. The warrants have to be judicial. The warrants have to follow a process.
Yes.
And then there's other processes in the deportation of somebody that you just go, that's not that important.
Like what?
Like defense.
What do you mean that I think it's not that important? I don't understand.
Like why aren't we paying for their personal defense?
I think there is an argument that could be made for that, but I don't think that that's part of why the Democrats are shutting down DHS. And if I was in that caucus, I wouldn't necessarily make that a hill to die on, nor to be that important to me. And if we don't want to pay for them right now, fine, whatever, don't care. Fourth Amendment is much more important to me. Fourth Amendment, much more. Judicial warrants and those checks and balances are far more important to me than that. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm going to put my flag on that hill. That's it. That you do not allow law enforcement to not go through the checks and balances of getting a judicial warrant to show probable cause in order to enter your home or place of business. They want to arrest you on the street, fine. Different. You do not get to enter my home. You do not get to enter my place of business without going through a judicial warrant. I don't care.
Are they doing
what you think.
that?
Yes. And that's the directive from ICE.
Where are the videos of this?
There are complaints that have happened across the country, but just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's the fallacy inside of the flat earth world, that you only can believe that stuff which you observe. That's it. No. And regardless of whether or not it didn't happen, the fact that ICE says we don't have to get judicial warrants is a huge red flag. That is not okay. And that cannot be the idea
Bill,
of the government.
Do you know what that memo in 2026 push to enter the home was about?
I've read some things about it, but what are you reading?
Was it just like random Americans?
What do you mean? What you're doing is you're talking about the idea of they're going after illegals. Yeah, to get the illegals out of the home.
There's an important qualifier.
Yeah, okay, and that is?
In that ICE memorandum.
Good. And that is, in your opinion?
Final removal orders.
Yeah.
Does
Okay.
it change the debate in any way?
Nope. Because if they have final removal orders, isn't that probable cause to get the judicial warrant? Can't you go do it and say the only way in which we can execute this final removal order is through this judicial warrant?
Hold on. I want
case.
to understand this
Make the
here.
case.
We're running up against a break.
Yeah, make the case.
Well, I think they have.
No, they haven't, because they haven't gone to court to get the warrant.
A final removal order.
That's different than the warrant to enter a home.
So
just because you have a final hang on a sec, just because you have a final removal order doesn't mean you get to break into wherever the person is and go grab them whenever, wherever, however you want to.
In your world.
It's not
in
the
your
rules.
world and in Ben's world, for us to be a constitutional order and us to follow the Constitution, because I just had Ben yell at me about how I don't care about the Constitution. I just want to understand this here. We go through a process as a country to identify somebody that's here illegally. We then take them to court. In the midst of them being identified here as illegally and us taking them to court, they still remain here. Then we go through the whole legal process to get a final order of removal, right? So testimony, evidence, all that stuff. Oh, okay. Final removal order has been given by a judge. The person receives the final removal order. They then still decide to stay here. Okay, now, for us to be constitutional in your world, we need to go back to the judge to get a warrant, not an administrative warrant, but a judicial warrant, to now enter the person's home who's already had a final order of removal to now get them to leave. In that process, we're finally being a constitutional country.
Not finally, that just is the process of being a constitutional country. Not finally. That's the rules. That's how they're set up. You need to go get the judicial warrant if you want to break into their home.
After the final order of removal.
Yes. If you want to get in there and get them, yes. Just because they have final order of removal doesn't mean that it's just open season on them wherever. And remember, this type of a judicial warrant is well, I don't want to go that way because that'll open up a whole other can of worms, another fight on this one. But yeah, this is about the Constitution. This is about not having law enforcement, for whatever reason, go into your house
for whatever
at any point
reason.
in time. Yeah,
no one ever said for whatever reason. It's for final removal orders.
Yeah. And then what if I just take that memo and I just change it for something else? Because we think somebody's in there. Or we think that that's the issue, is this is a memo that has no checks and balances. So that causation, that predication on why they would go in the first place based on final removal orders can change at any point because it is a memo that has no checks and balances, meaning tomorrow it could be walking into your house for whatever reason at all. That's why it can't be a memo. That's why it has to go through court process.
Civilizational suicide. This is what I don't understand about the left. They will allow people to walk across the border into your country. We will spend millions of taxpayer dollars to educate them, to provide health care for them. But the second you want to try to get them out of here, you have to jump through so many hurdles in order to do so. And if you don't do it, you're not a constitutional country. You're not abiding by the Constitution. We are a generous society. We create plenty of processes, plenty of opportunities for people to come to this country. This is civilizational suicide. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are The Jeff and Bill Show. More fighting ahead.
710 KNUS in Denver, Colorado.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. Democrats want to change how ICE operates, requiring them to obtain warrants from judges to make arrests in homes. They already can't do that with administrative warrants, but there is an internal memo that said in 2026 to push for administrative warrants to allow home entry if final removal orders have been given. And I agree with 1463 here that if it's burdensome to have due process and we have to follow that, why don't we have the same statement towards those that want to enter the country here legally? Say, okay, it's burdensome, but you still have to follow it. But you don't hear that from the left. It's like 10 million came in, and then the burdensome process kicks in when you try to make them leave. All right, Mary, we'll get to you next. Stick around. Phone lines jam-packed. What changes would you want to see to ICE? And do you blame the Democrats now? The government's partially shut down. This could affect travel. Nearly 85% of FEMA employees are expected to work right now without pay. Democrats want these changes. Where do you put the burden? Republicans or Democrats right now? And again, I'll say this as I always say, why in the world do we trust these people with our health care decisions? All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. The argument continues in a moment.